Hi everyone, how are you doing today? Well, first of all, Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays. I've just been having quite a lazy morning. It is Christmas morning when I'm filming this. Having my coffee in my Alice in Wonderland mug. Still have the mug. It's a little chipped, as you can see. It's been one of those years of chipped mugs. And I'm going over to visit my family in a few hours, but I thought I would just film a quick little update video here in the meantime, and hopefully a caffeinated update, and talk about some books and some reading because I haven't made a video in a while. I was actually going to do one of my regular videos over on the desk, but my desk is not set up for YouTube anymore. And it's a mess. So this will be just an informal stream of consciousness video. First, I wanted to share a life update. I have recently gotten engaged to the most wonderful man in the world, and I know y'all like the ring close up, so here's the ring. So pretty. Yes, we got engaged last month, and it's just been a very busy time, as you can imagine. So I've been thinking about making videos, but just been so busy with other things. So but yeah, I did want to talk about some of the books that I have acquired recently. Now, I haven't been getting a lot of books. I'm actually in the process of downsizing. You can see some of the empty gaps on the shelf there. Yes, long story, but downsizing, reading what I own. I've been very careful not to buy a lot of books in the second half of this year, but I was gifted some books and I will share those in a minute. As far as reading goes, now I have been reading a few things over this gap of time since the last video. Yeah, I'll start with that. So I'm currently reading Independent People by Halldor Laxness, and this is a novel set in Norway in the early 1900s, and I'm about, well, not super far through yet, almost at the end of part one. This is a book that my reading buddy and I chose for Reading the World. If you've been following me a while, you'll remember that we're doing the Reading the World challenge. Approaching 5 years, I guess more like 4 years and some, like 4.5 years right now. But we're approaching 5 years, and I've had this book for a while, and it just made sense to start it because it's just, Iceland's been on our list a long time. And this book is incredibly written. I feel like I should have something a little more smart to say right now. I feel like this book is very bleak though, so we are going to be taking a little bit of a break from it after I finish part one. I think it's a great book. I think that it's very episodic. It's told in a series of vignettes about this farmer and the hardships of his life and the interactions with his community and the relationship with his new wife. So there's plenty of drama, there's plenty of even action in the book, there's some very haunting scenes. It's not a cheerful read, and I've as you'll find out in a minute, I've not succeeded in reading many cheerful books right now. But yeah, it's good. He won the Nobel Prize in Literature in 1955, and I would say very well deserved. So what else have I been reading? So my fiance and I have been reading this book, which he got me for my birthday. This is Richard Flanagan's Question 7. Love the cover design here. I am a cover design nerd. Question 7 is framed around this short story by Anton Chekhov, and the punchline of this very short story, I think it's a piece of microfiction basically, is who loves longer, a man or a woman? But the book is not really, well, I can't tell what it's about exactly yet. I mean, it's about a lot of things. He's talking about his father's experiences in a Japanese labor camp. I think this is like during World War II. And wait, World War II or World War One? Okay, that's embarrassing. It would have been World War II. Yeah, World War II. I'm really out of it this morning. So he's going over his own father's experiences in the labor camp. He's like sprinkling in stuff about H.G. Wells' love life, and it's this kind of weird mishmash of things. There's some really good moments in this, some really good thoughts, but I'm not really seeing how he's tying it all together very well. So again, another installment in my autofiction reading. You'll remember I did a video on autofiction earlier this year, and I'm liking parts of this book very much, but as a whole, it's just not quite coming together yet. Very pretty bookmark. Also, beautiful bookmark. Also from my fiance. He's just been spoiling me with the books and the bookmarks. All right, so that's what Richard Flanagan's Question 7. We're still reading through it. No final thoughts, no final verdict as of yet. Then let's see here. The other book I'm reading. Well, I'm gonna come back to this other book I'm reading. Let me talk about some of the other books that I received recently. So also for my birthday, he gave me this beautiful Everyman's Library of Jane Eyre. You know how I love those Everyman Library copies. And just a beautiful, beautiful hardback. And then for Christmas, I only asked for 2 books. Well, really 1 book, and I was like, if you want to get me another book. My parents got me both books. They got me Vertigo and the Immigrants by W.G. Sebald in these gorgeous editions. I am a huge fan of these, of this cover design. This is by New Directions, and I really enjoyed Rings of Saturn. So some of you who've been following a while will remember my review of Rings of Saturn that I did in the pandemic. I think fairly early on in the pandemic. And it just blew me away. So now I have the whole set. And it's just gorgeous. And look who's there. Look who's spying on you from the cover. It's my boy Kafka. So yeah, very excited. And it was just very sweet of my parents to give me both of these. I definitely don't deserve it. All right. So other things I've been reading. I am making my way through this book I've owned for a while, and which I'm probably going to donate. I mean, it's already secondhand, but this is Henrik Ibsen, A Doll's House and Other Plays. Now, I've already read a book by Ibsen's rival. What was his name again? Oh boy, Augustus somebody. You know, I should remember. But another playwright who wrote some very not so nice plays about some very unsavory people. Anyways, Ibsen's the more famous of the two, right? So I'm finally reading, I mean, I've read another of his plays before, but I'm finally reading A Doll's House. I finished A Doll's House yesterday. I did not know that A Doll's House is actually a Christmas story. Well, it's set at Christmas anyway. And I was blown away. I was truly and deeply moved by A Doll's House. More so than I was expecting, because I had some idea of what it was about. I vaguely knew what it was about. But the way Ibsen is able to just very subtly build up this drama and I think present you with kind of like this kind of worst case scenario. I think the fact it's set at Christmas is very poignant. I think we've all had holidays that were extremely devastating for one reason or another. I mean, hopefully you haven't, but if you're an average person, you've probably had a holiday or especially a Christmas that was very tragic for you in some way or other. And this book just really uses that in a way that brings this whole family drama home in a, no pun intended, in a particularly poignant way. And he really makes you feel, I think, for all of the characters in the play, including the antagonists, as we know, if we can call them antagonists, even the people that are very unpleasant in the book. He doesn't really totally villainize any of the characters. I think he tells a story in a way that makes you feel it's a problem of society that has infected these people who would otherwise, maybe not otherwise, but who would hopefully be a lot nicer people if you know, if these things weren't set up the way they were in their culture. Anyways, I might write a book review of this on my blog. I probably won't do a video of it, but I do highly recommend A Doll's House, and I want to read the other two plays in this collection before I let it go, if I let it go. So the other plays being The League of Youth, which is supposed to be a political drama, and then The Lady from the Sea, which is also about marriage and so on. So yeah, A Doll's House, highly recommended that one as well. And very much, I wouldn't say it's overhyped. I did feel like there's one thing he does in this that I don't like, and a lot of authors do this, a lot of playwrights do this. I mean, I can kind of see why. But it kind of, the book kind of ends with this dramatic speech that kind of moves the action forward and just resolve. Like, I'm not a fan of that. I'm really not a big fan of that. It's a lot of show and not, I mean, it's a lot of tell and not show. I kind of prefer a resolution of a story to involve a little more events and not just big speeches. But either way, still very much worth reading. Alright. So, this year, looking back, there were some very memorable reads. I feel like it's not been my best year for reading in terms of volume or even the things I did read. But there were some very memorable reading experiences this year. I don't know how much, I guess I talked about it a little bit on the channel, but I did do a reread of the Sherlock Holmes series. I'm actually still reading it. I was supposed to finish it like today or tomorrow, but I'm still making my way through it in the Casebook of Sherlock Holmes, which is the last set of short stories Doyle wrote for Holmes. So I'm almost done with that. I never did finish The Valley of Fear, which is the fourth novel. I just didn't like it. I've never liked The Valley of Fear. Overall, the reread experience of Sherlock Holmes certainly illuminated some things that I like about the character in the series, but it just didn't have the same magic as when I read it when I was like 9 or 10. But that's okay. Like, I still love the series. It's just not the same reading experience anymore. Another book that left quite a lasting impression was Ice by Anna Kavan. I did manage to make a video review of that, and I was very happy with how that turned out. And other highlights were A Canticle for Leibovitz, which my fiance read to me over the summer. Very fun and very unique science fiction. We did a video of that, podcast style. And let's see, we read Confessions together earlier in the year for Lent. That was really good. Augustine's Confessions. And again, I think I wrote a book review of that on my blog. I don't know if I did a video of it. There's just some books that I prefer to write about and some books I prefer to make videos about. And then every so often I'll do both if I'm particularly ambitious. Yeah, so ups and downs this year for reading, but definitely some very strong highlights. The biggest highlight for me, honestly, was Kokoro by Natsume Soseki. Again, I don't believe I did a video of this. I did write about it on my blog. I find that whenever I read, well, often when I read Japanese novels, I start thinking about my faith, because a lot of these novels are very spiritually framed. And so I did write about that on my blog. I didn't end up making a video about it. Not because I don't want to talk about it, but I just think sometimes I don't want to come across as preachy or whatever. And it can be hard for me sometimes to separate like a more like general audience book review from, oh, here's my very personal thoughts, feelings, and beliefs about this. And so that's kind of a balance that I try to find, and I think it's a little easier when I'm writing to do that, because you can make some pretty clear, well, I guess you can do it on YouTube now with chapters and everything, but the section breaks and stuff are helpful there. But Kokoro, lots to love about Kokoro. I'm not gonna lie, the chapters are only about 2 pages each, and I found that to be quite enjoyable this year. If you're feeling busy, if you're in a reading rut, if you just have a short attention span like mine is becoming, you know, those 2-page chapters are quite a relief. And not only that, but he manages to keep the pace up quite nicely in this book. I believe there's 3 parts here. There are, yes, part 1, Sensei and I. Part 2, My Parents and I. Part 3, Sensei's Testament. Is it Sensei or Sensei? I am going to really kick myself if it's Sensei. I usually look these things up when I do a more formal book review. Anyways, bear with me. So, yeah, I really enjoy the structure of this book, because each of those parts could almost be read as their own novellas. They're connected, obviously, and there's a sequence to them, but each piece, each part is so complete in itself. The first part is about this young guy in Japan who meets this older guy and becomes obsessed with him. Now, the way they meet and the way that's set up, it sounds like some kind of weird romance, but actually it's not about that, and you'll find out more as the book goes on, the more complex emotions and things that are going on. It's not as simple as just, you know, romance or whatever. So the first part is about that very obsessive relationship that he has with this older guy. And then the second part is about the main character going back to his parents and visiting them. And then the third part is about, well, let me back up a bit. The second part isn't just him visiting his family, but there's like this whole family drama going on that he has to attend to, but it pulls him away from this guy he really likes. And then the third part is told by the older guy, and it's like talking about his life. So again, each part feels very complete in itself, and yet there are some pretty big themes that connect all 3 of them. Themes of complicated relationships, especially complicated relationships with fathers, money and envy and jealousy, and just kind of all the classic things you'd hope to find in a novel. But I think what makes this book really a standout for me is that it's just told in this very subtle, gentle way, and gives you plenty of space to think. And yet he never really seems to lose that tension, that general sense of unease, which is what kind of keeps you moving forward. And I don't really know how exactly to pin this down. Like, how exactly is he doing this? I don't know how to pin that down. Maybe if I read this again, I could figure it out. But he did this in The Gate. The Gate, this was the first book that I read by him. We read this for Japan, Reading the World. And the gate is not quite as dramatic as Kokoro. This is even more understated, more slow in pace. This is more just day in the life, honestly. But again, Soseki still has a way of weaving tension into just the most mundane things of life. And it just comes out a lot more in Kokoro and in just these very complicated relationships, not just the platonic ones, but then later there are some actual romantic relationships in the book, and it just kind of goes over that. So, loved that. Soseki is becoming a favorite author of mine. I'm looking forward to reading more by him, and I already want to read this again. I don't reread books very often. I certainly don't reread them so quickly after reading them the first time, but I keep thinking about picking this up again because it was that good. I shall say though, I think my appreciation of Kokoro might be a bit idiosyncratic. Like, I'm not saying, you know, rush out to the store on Christmas morning or the day after Christmas and buy Kokoro because it will change your life. I'm not saying that. I think it just really struck a lot of chords with me personally and with my own experiences, and that's why I loved it so much. I don't think it's a book for everyone. Alright. Reading plans for the new year. So sorry, that was quite a long ramble about Kokoro. But yeah, reading plans for the new year. Do I have them? Not really. No, actually my plans are to kind of keep going through the books I own, continue reading what I own, trying to read some things before I donate them or sell them. And so yeah, I'm not making any plans or commitments for 2025. Now that being said, I might be attempting to read War and Peace. I say might. It's very possible. It's also very possible that I will not attempt to read War and Peace. But I have had this really nice secondhand copy. It does have a crease there, but that means somebody was reading it. I've had this really nice secondhand copy for a little while now. Not actually that long. And I actually would be quite sad to part with it without reading it first. For two reasons. One, when am I ever going to find a nice secondhand copy like this again so easily? And secondly, War and Peace. Can you be a classics reader if you don't read War and Peace? I don't know. I mean, but also I've certainly enjoyed all of the Penguin Deluxe classics I've read. For some of these big chunky books, I like these editions so much. I enjoyed reading Christine Laurensdottir in this edition. This edition made East of Eden bearable, just barely bearable. And I think that if I'm going to read War and Peace, I would really like to read this edition. So there is a group doing like a read a chapter day this coming year, so I might do that. The chapters are, chapters aren't too long. Like, just like 4 or 5 pages each, so really no excuse. I do find sometimes these slower read-alongs can be difficult though. Like, sometimes I just feel like I lose momentum. But I'm considering that. But it's not a plan, it's just an idea. So yeah, that's my only potential reading goal, other than just trying to work through some more of the books. So not a lot of book hauls in the new year, but you'll be seeing some books I've talked about before on book hauls show up again. And I will try to be a little more active on YouTube. I don't know if I'll be going back to my other types of videos soon. But I think I'd like to try to do some kind of weekly video, and maybe it's what I'm reading, maybe it's a movie I've watched. I haven't watched a lot of movies this year. Well, I take that back. I have watched a lot of movies this year. Few of them have actually been noteworthy, but you know, maybe I'll try to do like a weekly video about something, book or film related, and just because I do want to keep the channel going. I've really enjoyed all of the people I've met through YouTube, and watching your videos has been a real comfort and joy to me over the past few years. Even though sometimes I don't comment, or sometimes I might not be as active as I'd like to be, it just has been a really, really positive thing in my life, and I've just enjoyed hearing from all of you as well. Yeah, I think that's pretty much all I had for this video. Hope you have a wonderful holiday season, Happy New Year's, and I will see you again.